Hey guys, I'm Calluna, and welcome back to another episode of Screenshots. So, if you haven't already heard, Netflix recently acquired the rights to the three-part anime movie series Cyborg 009 Call of Justice. Each movie was 100 minutes long, and Netflix redistributed the movies as a 12-episode anime series. The movie celebrates the 50-year history of the series, since the first movie was released in 1966, despite the manga originally being published in 1964. So if you haven't seen my last Cyborg 009 movie review, I'm a huge fan of the series, and so when I heard that Netflix had acquired the rights to it, I was really excited because they've put out some really good stuff. So, how does this hold up? Let's find out. I wasn't the biggest fan of the predecessor to this, RE Cyborg 009, because the story was really confusing and the philosophy being spouted didn't make for a great narrative, though the animation of some of the fights looked really excellent. Kenji Kamiyama, the director and screenwriter for RE Cyborg, was returning as the chief director, and Kodai Kakimoto, the unit director for RE Cyborg, was now on board for directing. That made me a little nervous initially. It seems like they took a lot of good notes from the last movie because, thankfully, a lot of the philosophical jargon has been removed, and instead we focus back on the 00 team and the struggles that they face in their day-to-day.
Joe, I'm scared. I fear that our days of fighting are far from over.
One of the first things I have to talk about is the animation, which is probably the greatest weakness of this series. I mentioned that sometimes the models in RE Cyborg would look a little awkward standing next to each other sometimes, but overall I was pretty happy with the animation for what it was focusing on. Oh boy, I am not a fan of the animation style here. It's super janky and it feels like there wasn't a strong budget behind the films, making a lot of this feel like it was made 10 or 15 years ago in comparison. Sometimes the animation works well for some of the fight scenes, but overall it's really nothing great. Character models often have these kind of dead-eye expressions that are really unsettling.
My. So not only are you wind-up dolls, but morons as well.
It's also kind of funny because the show is a really big fan of panoramic shots, so we'll get these 360 shots to show off the CG models, but it feels really awkward. It just seems odd to me that they went with this style of animation for the series. It's not nearly as impressive looking as the previous movie, and it doesn't do anything particularly unique. Overall, for someone like me who's really not a big fan of CG modeling for anime like this, it can be a bit of a turnoff. However, there is a lot to like about this show that kept me watching it. Now, what saves this show is the fact that it feels like a natural successor to the series I grew up watching, which was the 2001 reboot of the original anime series from the 60s. The 00s are once again pulled into another fight in order to save humanity from its destruction. We see that this takes place several years after the events of RE, and it follows the same setup of using all the events from the previous anime series as events in their past. So it is 2016 and the world has known about their existence for 50 years or so. But after the events of RE, they came back together as a group again, and were hiding out to try and have some semblance of a normal life. A woman named Lucy Davenport comes, telling them she's a journalist and has been investigating the 00s for a while, mentioning several incidents that fans of the Cyborg 009 franchise will recognize. This is basically catch-up exposition for anyone who hasn't seen any of the previous Cyborg 009 franchise. It makes an easy jumping-off point for anyone who might have been interested in the series, unlike RE Cyborg, which really only worked for fans of the series beforehand. This time, the 00s are fighting against the Blessed, a group of long-living mutants who apparently have been shaping the course of humanity from the shadows for thousands and thousands of years. However, it seems a small group of these Blessed have grown tired of humanity's constant violence and seek to reset the world, believing that humanity cannot evolve any further as they are now. The Blessed hide in plain sight and have many connections to high-ranking governments and militaries, so it won't be easy for the cyborgs to stop them. Lucy Davenport is the person who tells the cyborgs about these people, and unfortunately ends up bringing them to their front door, starting a fight. It's cool to see that the cyborgs are going toe-to-toe with other people who can fight them without the use of high-grade military weapons. It's a fresh take on the Cyborg series, and it's just something different that they haven't fought before. It's almost kind of like the androids from Dragon Ball Z are taking on the X-Men. The kinds of powers that the Blessed use are all really interesting and unique, ranging from weather control to mental manipulation, and even facing someone who can take over machines, which proves to be one of the more difficult fights, considering their mechanical bodies. Overall, I thought the story was solid and fit with the Cyborg 009 universe. It can be a bit predictable here and there. There are several plot and character elements that weren't exactly a surprise, but overall I think it does a good job showcasing the cyborgs, their powers, and the conflicts that they're facing 50 years later.
A cyborg who is fighting for humanity. Without anyone knowing, without ever receiving thanks. And if that's the case, how can you go on fighting?
So I watched the English dub, and man, I kinda missed the accents from RE. I really enjoyed that choice the dubbers made, and since this is taking place right after that movie, it was a little weird going from accents to no accents, though some characters do maintain some slight accents like GB and Chang. Besides the missing accents though, the acting is pretty solid in this. We hear some pretty familiar actors if you've watched any Viz Media dubs, like the recent Sailor Moon dub. Ben Diskin, Robbie Damon, Wendy Lee, Patrick Sates, Christina V, and Jeremy Lay, to name a few.
For centuries now, these people have wandered among us unnoticed and undetected.
Hold up. Centuries? What are they, vampires?
GB.
The three of you are way too gullible.
Although the 12 episodes are constructed from 3 movies, each takes place one right after the other, so that made it relatively easy to turn 100 minutes into 4 separate 25-minute long episodes per movie without it missing any content or repeating anything from the previous films. Each film helps to build the overall story. Part 1 focuses on introducing the new villains to the cyborgs and setting them up as enemies of the United Nations. Part 2 gives time to the cyborgs figuring out what the Blessed are up to and finding allies, and Part 3 is the final fight between both sides. Joe is the protagonist of the movie, which makes sense since he's the main character of the series. All the other characters get moments throughout the 3 films that either show off their powers in a cool way or give them something fun to do, though Chang and GB definitely get the short end of the stick when it comes to getting screen time. Jet gets quite a bit, and Ivan actually gets to do more than just be exposition. His psychic powers end up connecting back to the Blessed in a cool way, allowing him to be more active on the battlefield than usual. He often would be the strategist or only able to teleport the gang rather than actively fighting the bad guys himself. One of my favorite moments in the entire series is this really great character interaction between Joe and Geronimo, where Geronimo's trying to talk to Joe about how it's not the physical body that makes us human, but our soul. And it's just a really cool character moment to have in this movie.
We are just like the ship of Theseus. However our bodies might be refashioned, so long as we hold onto our souls, we will remain who we are no matter what occurs.
Kind of amazing that Dr. Gilmore is still around. The manga never specifies his age, though canon usually attributes him to having the same birthday as the manga's creator, Shotaro Ishinomori, which would make him 78 since Ishinomori was born in 1938. Gilmore doesn't look like he's aged all that much, but that's probably just retroactively adjusting his age to allow him to still be in the story. If they do end up doing more movies after this, I think it would make for a good story to see them dealing with Gilmore's age. He's been their mentor figure for 50 years, and while they don't get old, they are seeing him age and age. Seeing them deal with that weather, knowing it's going to be happening soon, or if it actually does happen, could be a really poignant story and something that I think the Cyborg 009 fans would really appreciate. The music for this series is excellent. I particularly liked the opening song, I Am Human, and I was really glad I checked out this series, if nothing else, but for introducing me to this band. Monkey Magic is a pop rock band formed between 2 Canadian brothers and 2 Japanese men. The Canadians play guitar and provide the vocals, while the others are on drums and bass. This creates a really unique blend of Eastern and Western music, and it was really pleasant to listen to. The rest of the music for the series really blended well and helped to make the battles more intense. Monkey Magic also did the ending song, Is This Love, which is a nice soft and sweet sounding ending song, which works really well for the series overall. So overall, I'd say that fans of the Cyborg 009 series will probably really like this, though there's definitely going to be some moments where the animation's going to make you burst out laughing for how awkward it can look sometimes. This is a good starting point for anyone who might be interested in checking out Cyborg 009. It's a good introduction to the cyborgs and their struggle with protecting humanity, while at the same time being ostracized. While the type of bad guys they are fighting are new, the same themes and struggles that the Zeros have always dealt with remain with them. Their struggle with their humanity, whether or not it's right to fight for the sake of peace, and whether they should even fight for humanity after everything they've been through. This isn't going to be anything terribly new for the 00 franchise, which is why I think I like it a little more than RE. That tended to take things a little more in the Ghost in the Shell direction, and sort of kind of lost a bit of the heart of the original Cyborg 009 franchise. So yeah, if you have Netflix, you should definitely check this out. It's only 12 episodes long, so you can very easily just binge it over the weekend like I did, or if you feel like taking it a little bit at a time, the fact that it's made from 3 anime movies makes it easy to watch it in small bursts. If you want a pretty straightforward action anime with a little bit of drama spliced in here and there, then this is a good one to go with.
How long do we have to hide? How far do we have to run? They've taken away the life that we finally got to live. We've lost our home, and it's still not enough. Why can't you understand?
So if you have seen this series, what did you think of it? Did you like the story, the characters? Was the animation okay for you, or did it sort of turn you off like it did initially for me? Post your thoughts in comments below. I'm really curious to see what you guys thought of this. Alright guys, I'm Calluna, and thanks for tuning into Screenshots. See ya!
The fear was only momentary, but your role was never temporary, you know. This was never meant to end.
Hey guys, if you want to see other Cyborg 009 content from me, then feel free to check out my Patreon page. If you don't know what that is, it's a site that allows you to pay me an amount of money each month, and depending on the amount that you donate, you'll get various rewards, including being able to choose something for me to review. This could be something else from the Cyborg 009 franchise, or some other anime, movie, television series. It's up to you. Feel free to check it out here and see what kinds of rewards that you can get by donating. Any amount is great, and I really, really appreciate it, but hey, maybe you'll get to see something else in the future. Also, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Calluna Reviews. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at screenshots.calluna@gmail.com. Alright guys, see you in the next video. Bye!
Exactly who or what is this man?
The blessed.
Huh?
Hashtag blessed. They ain't ready for me.